Yes, this is no big deal. But what I'm seeing when it comes to addicted personality based on, you know, or addicted personality, um, when it comes to a personality disorder, if one is raised up in a dysfunctional family, that becomes that is associated and connected to a personality, the disorder, and which is considered to be a disease, a disease, a disease, because he or she um, sees him or herself as they look at the dysfunction of the family. Now, then he could become addicted to that disorder behavior. And if it's not checked at an early age, it will get worse. And that a lot of times what one can think is functional, people maybe can make it up with their titles and their wealth, but still the addicted personality or the personality disorder is still there. It's still there, and people or try to overcome it. They could, relapse into that. And we see people who also become very, I don't necessarily like using this word, but very narcissistic. Now I'm hearing that because we're dealing with also the not only how a person is raised, but now we're getting into we also get into the function of the brain. This is just data. I'm no psychologist or no doctor or clinician or whatever. But how the brain, it is said, is not fully developed until they reach the age of 25. And if a child does something, he or she his brain is not fully developed. So maybe that doesn't make him or her to be an adult where he or she is not may not be accountable of his or her actions because he or she is unable to control his feelings and his or her emotions, and he or she is just acting out. So if there is a dysfunction in the family, then there is a dysfunction in the community. There's a dysfunction in the school. Then you just breeding more dysfunctionalism unless the child gets out of that environment, or if it's recognizable at an early stage of the child's life. What I say that, if anything that is progressive, you meet it with that progressive. So in doing so, the end result is to restore the credibility of the individual. Yes. I'm just approaching this behavior, and then I call it a cinco media approach. A 5.5, one feminine or masculine, one feminine, either or. But and that's really dealing with a behavior when it comes to one's attitude, because then I approach this behavior universally, which everything is based on the social health model of perception, how a person is perceiving or perceive himself. And how he perceived the interactions of his members of his family and people of the community at a young age. Because before the child is born, the message is being communicated to that child. So we just want to see what precipitates that, which will cause someone to relapse back into being dysfunctional. Then I approach it with holistic assessment, a progressive assessment, a universal assessment. And then we're dealing with the coherent part. And this is the half, the medio and the media, the medio. You have the temperament/temperament, and that's the bridge, that's the connection, that's the half. And become very coherent, and that's a person that is considered to be very logical and consistent, very rational in his or her thinking as well as his behavior in his or her decision-making process. There were no problem-solving skills. And data talks about, not being a pessimist, but be more optimistic, optimist. You see any difficulty as an opportunity. You don't see opportunity as something that is difficult. Yes. For every solution, someone has a problem. But the problem is not the problem, it's the attitude that you have about the problem. So that's the crust, the attitude. And it could be very distressing to people who see these, because it becomes almost like an automatic distorted thinking. You see what's transpiring and what's going on. You have to be very mature, very grounded, and very committed and sincere when you are trying to be of some assistance as the two people who are working together on a structural plan to help the individual as we all assist each other in achieving their goal, the objective and their goal. For me, there's restoring your credibility, dealing with diversity, readdressing diversity, and revising coherent, be more coherent. And then there's another approach and assessment is the comprehensive. That's comprehensive treatment, and which means that it replenishes. It replenishes. The continuity of one's confidence. Yes, continuity of one's confidence. And then final is to reclaim social solidarity. And the approach to that is conscientious. Interesting indeed. Yes, and we want to talk about, poor concepts, self-defeating attitudes, and some would say self-defeating personality traits, and social dysfunction include family, work, legal, financial problem emerges as consequences of brain dysfunctional, reluctant personality disorganization. This is just data. That's all. But